Well, it had to happen sooner or later. The Shadow Phoenix Saga has begun. Let's talk about it.
I have something to say.
Hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlie. I'm a non-binary sci-fi fantasy writer, very heavy on the fantasy lately. I'm going to be writing fantasy for a while, but I have some sci-fi projects still creaking around in the background. It's here. It's here. The moment I have been both looking for and dreading. It's here. Raid, the first book, the Book Zero. Book Zero in the Shadow Phoenix Saga is live on Kindle Vella, and I'm going crazy in every possible way. I've been working on this series for so long, like a lot more than anybody knows. And that's kind of what I want to talk about on today's episode, the process to getting to launch. This whole thing started 4 years ago when I woke up from a dream that was just one of those profound dreams that I couldn't shake. It was so powerful, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. So I rushed in, pulled out my laptop, and started typing. And I wrote the first 2 chapters of a book. And I got really excited about it. I'm still really excited about it. And then the problems came. I realized how much of those 2 chapters were backfill. They were that thing I despise in prologues where you spend a lot of time talking about what happened previously, what happened before, what happened in the before time, and not as much in the moment with what was going on in the story. So I thought to myself, well, I want to write the before time. And I wrote a novella, 3 books, and got them done. And then the panini happened. And those 3 books have not come out. One did for a brief period of time, but I pulled it back, and that would be Crucify My Love. And I pulled it back because it felt really inappropriate to have a story that involved with a god of death in the middle of a pandemic. It felt somehow exploitative to do that. So I pulled the book back, and I do intend at some point in the future to re-release that book and that whole series, because all 3 books in that series are done. But then I couldn't get the idea out of my head. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, that's not actually where the story starts. Maybe I should tell the story from where it begins. And that's how we got here. Not really. No. It'd be a lot easier. Like, it'd be a much better story if that's how it went. No. That is what happened. I started writing that story too, and got a couple chapters into it, and I was like, this isn't actually where it starts. And then I had another idea for a lit RPG story. And I started working on it, and that was going to be called Crypts and Wyverns Rebirth. And I started working on it, and it wasn't working, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Something was inherently wrong with the story, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And it was really bothering me because I loved the characters. I loved the story. I loved what was going on with it. It just wasn't working. But why? That's when I had this heart-wrenching realization. It was in the same setting as those other fantasy books that I'd been working on. I just abstracted it to the point where I didn't realize that. And it was the missing ingredient for all of the others that made the others work. And so I made the decision to merge the 2 fantasy worlds together, which was not the easiest thing that I've ever had to do, to take the world building and kind of not just shuffle it together, but pick and choose where they conflicted, which was right, or was it some mix between the 2, or was it a third option that I hadn't even conceived of? And so I spent a lot of last year redoing the world building for that setting and writing Raid. I love this book. I love this book more than just about anything that I've ever written. And it takes a lot for me to be able to say that, because I feel weird liking my own fiction. I shouldn't. That should be a given, right? But there's something about the setting that really resonates with me, and I can't really put my finger on it. Part of it is the pastiche of it all, the homage that the story and the setting pays to all of the books and movies and TV shows and video games that I had played previously. And part of me just loves it because it is its own thing. I can see all of the elements that go into it. I can see how this or that or the other thing inspired it. And I would never, ever have the gall to proclaim myself as original, because it's not. We all build our fiction on the story worlds that came before us. But more than anything I've ever written in my life, this book feels like me. It feels like my story, my world, my everything. Nothing is heteronormative in the setting at all. Even the heterosexual characters are a little queer. There's no homophobia in the setting. There's all kinds of magical creatures and magical species that are main characters, and none of them are elves, which I'm very, very happy about. It's hard for me to talk about how much I love this story. So what is this? Raid tells the story of Maeve Lamborn and her crew of the Buttercup as they go off on a commission to retrieve a stolen Nofrian Ark, a case containing a religious relic that means so much to the Nofrian people, and all the adventures on their way there and what happens when they get back. And it is so important to everything that happens after. In so many ways, it brings me back to those early loves that I had as a child of the adventures of Sinbad the Sailor and reading 1001 Arabian Nights. I can see a lot of influence from Scheherazade in these stories and in the way this world is constructed. In fact, if I continue the way I'm going in a future book, there will be kind of a twist on City of Brass in here because I love that story so much. It is the beginning of something that feels momentous to me. It's me finally having the courage to tell my stories with all the weirdness in them. This book contains Jade Crescent, a 9-foot-tall, sweet as punch shark boy. And I love him for that. It has the first of many Nefrir, which for anybody who's been watching the streams, I jokingly refer to them as murder radishes, these cute little possessed dolls out of people that look like people that grow on trees. I'm absolutely obsessed with this setting and with this world, and I'm hoping to share that love with all of you. Maeve is such a profound character in my mind, and I'm hoping that I did her justice. I'm hoping that I brought her life alive in a way that works and that makes other people love her as much as I do. And that's the same with Sebastian and Jade and Harley and Crane. And later when you get to meet Ghost Echo and Scythe and Omerith, all of the characters that you're going to meet along the way. I've always wanted to write this epic fantasy series, and every time I sat down and tried to figure out what it was going to be, I hit a wall. And I this is going to sound so egotistical, and I apologize for that. I don't mean it that way, but I remember something that George Lucas said when he created Star Wars. He said he knew he wanted to tell a story that was like King Arthur, but set in space. That it took in everything he understood about the hero's journey and all of these topics that he wanted to discuss, all these things. And he had this kind of checklist of things that he wanted to make sure that the story was. And that he went through several drafts of it over the years, trying to make all that happen. And finally, he realized that he was never going to be able to write that story. And then he wrote Star Wars. And then after he read it, he realized, oh my, that's all in there. Everything that I wanted, my brain just put in all the right places. And while I am not saying that this is my Star Wars or that it will ever be a huge thing, I know what George Lucas felt now. I understand that elation because this is the story that I wanted to tell my entire life, that I've been struggling to tell since that very first novel I ever wrote when I wrote Empires back in middle school. This is the story I was trying to tell. I just didn't have the words. I didn't have the language. I didn't have the skill necessary to tell it. And I can't wait to see how it improves over time as I develop more skills. But this book is the beginning of everything that I've ever wanted to do as a storyteller. It's silly, it's goofy, it's sad, it's poignant. It has some moments in it that outright scared me. I don't know how you all will feel about it, but there's a couple moments in it that really kind of made me go, ah. And maybe that's because I understand the ramifications of them and what they're going to mean in future as the series goes on. I don't know, or if it was the moments themselves, but this book is the start of something amazing. It's the start of being able to tell the stories I want to tell, the way I want to tell them, and to bring them to you, hopefully for y'all to love them. Maybe even as much as I do, which I never thought that would be a challenge. I always felt like my readers would like my stories more than I did, but I really, truly do love this book and everything else in the series. So it's currently going up on Kindle Vella. The first 7 chapters are available, and then the next 5 will be coming out over the next 5 weeks. At the end of that, as I write book 1, Rebirth, those chapters, I'm going to write them, edit them, send them off to Rose City, get them back, and put them up on Vela. So, and of course, December 9th, the first collection, Raid, will be coming out in book form. So if you don't want to do Kindle Vela, Raid will be out in December. But until then, you can read it now. You can read it where it is. And I am so unbelievably thrilled with all of this. And I hope you like it. So if you want some pirates, if you want some daring adventure on the high seas with monsters and magic, check out the Shadow Phoenix Saga. I'll put a link to it down in the description below. This isn't actually the video that I thought I was going to make, but I think it's the one that I need to make because I want to document my joy. Because I have so few moments of just sheer unadulterated joy, and this is one of them. So yeah, I hope you like the Shadow Phoenix Saga. I'm going to be talking about it a lot more on this channel. I'm still going to be doing videos talking about my process and stuff, but I'm going to try my best to do a video on the various chapters of the book that will include some non-spoiler and some spoiler content in them, because I've always wanted to do like a director's commentary for one of my books, and I think if any series deserves to be the first one that I do that for, it's this one, because I just absolutely adore it so much, and I just want to talk about it. So I'm going to do that on video. So those will be coming out fairly rapid fire at first as we're getting caught up, and then as the chapters themselves come out, they'll be coming out a couple days afterwards to give people time to read the chapters. But yeah, I'm so excited. I'm sorry. All right. So that's my news. The book is out. I hope you like it. I hope you're enjoying it. Please let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And yeah, I normally end with kind of a bummer outro, but I'm in such a good mood. I'm just going to say, even though things have looked really dark over the last few years, y'all have given me hope that we can make a better world. So let's do that. Let's go out there and do what we can to stop Asian hate, to remind the idiots who do not believe that Black Lives Matter, that Black Lives Matter, the Black trans lives matter, and that trans identities are magic. And until next time, may you have the courage to write your dreams into reality. Let me know what they are down in the comments. Bye.